Yo, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to Kaiju Connections, my segment on the channel that is dedicated to all things kaiju, a big monster from film and television. And on Kaiju Connections, we have covered a lot of movie reviews, classic kaiju, the more unknown kaiju, like, we did the giant behemoth, we've done space amoeba, but now and then we need to bring it back to the ones that helped build the genre and make it what it is today. And who better to celebrate than our good friend Anguirus. So Anguirus, as we all know, was the first foe that Godzilla ever faced. So I'm going to ask the question, start from the top to the bottom. When was your first introduction to Anguirus, and how do you feel about him as a character? We'll start with Mr. DJ Anubis.
First time was actually Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 74. It was that, and then Godzilla versus Gigan after that. So basically, I started watching those, and that's how I discovered him. I didn't even know like Godzilla Raids Again. That's where he started. So, but those movies are my first one, but as far as a character, like we've talked about it numerous times between all of us about him coming back and trying to be represented either with Toho or with Legendary because he's a really cool character. I think Sentry brought it up a while back how he's very tenacious as a kaiju, and it's just pretty amazing. So really, technically, overall, like I would like to see him come back in some form.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us, guys. Sci-fi.
I think when I first saw Anguirus was when I saw him just through stock footage from what do you call it, Godzilla, All Monsters Attack. No, not All Monsters Attack. Yeah, All Monsters Attack. I just saw him through stock footage, and I saw how they show Gorosaurus and they show Rodan and they show like when Chiro goes to Monster Island. That was the first time I've ever seen him, and then it wasn't until I think later on, like 2 years later, when my father bought me the Godzilla vs. Gigan VHS back in I think it was 90. I think it was 1990, and that's when I saw Anguirus get down with Godzilla to fight Ghidorah and Gigan. So that was the first time I saw him. And yeah, I mean, maybe all of us have had conversations about, like Anubis just said, we've had conversations about his tenacity, his never say die attitude, his warrior mentality, never say die. He'd have to get beat down badly for him to literally retreat or whatever. He's very durable. So that's when I first saw him. But that's where they bring up the ultimate underdog, just like the way it says in your on the title. He's like I say, he's my top three with Rodan, right together. Ko top three, but yeah, it's he's just an amazing kaiju. So that's when I at first saw him. But I saw him through stock footage through All Monsters. I think it was All Monsters Attack.
Yeah, Mr. Jedi Granville.
Well, surprisingly, my first introduction to Anguirus was my first introduction to Godzilla, which was Godzilla versus Megalon, which you see him both in a stock footage version of him, but a new footage of him with the character of Godzilla when he fallen after Godzilla and then rolls over, and that was my first introduction to him. But I would get a chance to see him on the big screen with, as mentioned, Anubis, Godzilla versus Gigan at a drive-in theater, you know, and I was just like, I was taken aback by how enormously, you know, this person doesn't. I mean, this individual doesn't take down so easily. You know, he's someone. It's like I'm gonna keep on fighting until I bleed, which he actually does in the movie. You know, so he's a very, like I say, I've known him for a good almost 50 years now. Now to think about it. Yeah.
My first introduction to Anguirus is like I've told the story a number of times of how when I was a lot younger, it might have been 1992 when they started doing the what you call it, the creature feature on local television, and they were started.
I think it might. Oh no, but it was you were in. But you're in Great Britain. Here, they would sometimes do. I mean, I know DJ Nubis and Jedi. Remember I think it was what sci-fi, science fiction theater 3000 or 3000.
Yes.
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, Mystery Science Theater. Yeah, there you go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Creature feature in. It used to be every Friday for a month, and they would show 2 or 3 of the classic Godzilla movies. So I seen 1954, then they showed the second one, and I was really excited because I loved the fact that they had Godzilla on the big screen, like on my what looked like a big screen to me, being a little kid, which was the big, television in the living room. But I always remember thinking to myself after the first movie, I'd love to see that monster come back and fight something. Little did I know that the next feature right after that would be exactly that. And it, of course, was Godzilla Raids Again. And I absolutely love this movie poster.
Yes.
The movie's poster is just a brilliant looking poster, like a lot of the Toho posters that came out. I always get joy looking at the classic Japanese movie posters. It's like when they brought out like Star Wars in Indiana Jones. I love the artwork of the original posters. Instead of like a lot of these digitalized posters that we're getting now, I like the classic film posters. And this in it all was also a huge amazing poster. And I always thought to myself, what a unique choice to face Godzilla. But then I also thought it was a genius choice to have Anguirus as his first ever foe, considering if you think back in the day when it was dinosaurs, you had the herbivores versus the carnivores, and it was
That's
like
the first
that.
thing I was going to say. You think of the T-Rex versus the Triceratops. That's like the first thing you think of when you see these two.
Yeah. Or if you remember in Jurassic World, the first dinosaurs you come across is like the
Stegosaurus.
The Stegosaurus with the spikes, and it's like boom, it just was genius creatively. And
you know what, I just wanted to add also, now that you mentioned the dinosaurs, it's like I never mentioned it before, but it's like Anguirus seems like he's a cross between an Ankylosaurus and a Triceratops, because he has the horns that go up, and most Ankylosaurus only have like the ones going down, like the head spikes going down. So I never thought about that. I never thought about that. Just one. I sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. No.
But he has one of the behind the scenes footage, like imagery of the initial, Anguirus prop, the suit, and it, they put a lot of effort into making this thing look like a real, just like they did with Godzilla, trying to make him look like a real creature that you could imagine lived millions of years ago, that walked on the earth.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant design. And like you say, because he is like a four-legged creature with a hard shell with spikes, for me, he was the perfect first, foe for Godzilla.
Right. And just to
Yeah.
clarify, Anguirus, out of all the other kaijus, surprisingly doesn't have no real special powers in terms of some, unless you call a lot of guff, a lot of gumption, his
Mhm.
greatest power, because he does, as how it goes, he's an underdog. He is someone
Yeah.
who would truly go to bat against anybody, and he literally does what he has to do in order to do the job. So yeah.
The thing I've noticed when it comes to Godzilla, as you know, once we get past, there we go, Raids Again.
Nice cover.
Can't get it.
The one thing I think,
Yeah.
what I've noticed as the series progressed, each villain got more outrageous and got more, powers that could combat Godzilla in his atomic breath. But the thing with Raids Again, there was no, apart from obviously we knew Godzilla had the atomic breath, but it was amazing to see him go against a creature that, despite having no abilities, had the ability to still go toe to toe with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, exactly.
But then again, like he's got a lot of like defensive durability. Like his durability outside of just what he has is, which is no powers at all. Like his durability is tenacity. Like he's Godzilla. It took a lot for Godzilla to bring him down, and then finally go after him. And then it's that's what I like about it. Like he was the first foe, and he took Godzilla to that threshold where Godzilla's like, okay, man, I gotta find some way to freaking beat this dude or whatever, or fight this guy out, because he just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, and that's what a lot of people resonate with Anguirus as being the ultimate underdog that never gives up. So
Right.
Yeah. And like even Rodan, who I know you like, but Rodan starts off as a kaiju that is very much like Anguirus in terms of he had no real powers or abilities until against Mechagodzilla, where they made Fire Rodan happen. The thing I've noticed with Anguirus as well, it's not till I think the animated series Singular Point that they're actually given an ability, which happens many, many years later, where they give him like this. He has that illuminous ability where I think he like shoots something out of his back.
See, I've seen that movie. I've seen that anime, and I'm kind of drawing a blank. Like, what exactly did he do in the anime? Because the anime is it's forgettable now. That's why I say I'm trying to remember.
The best part about Anguirus from Singular Point is his sheer design.
Yes, it was a good design.
Because I do know that
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kim.
No, I do know that the creators of Singular Point, they made it their mission that they wanted to give each of the kaiju a more realistic dinosaur look appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So even Godzilla and that looks more like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and obviously we know the look of Rodan in that series.
Yeah, he looks like an actual pteranodon. I wanted to add, I think what Anguirus had in Singular Point was the ability. He had almost nigh invulnerability and was able to like predict something, to predict time, or some predict time, like to predict the moves. But he had like almost sheer unstoppable durability, and that was like every time they would shoot at him, he had this ability to like when they shot like the missiles and all that stuff at him, the bullets, his ability was actually able to redirect them right back at where they came from.
I think if I was going to have Anguirus, I don't want him to have too many things special, but we saw kind of like with Final Wars how you had the roll like an
Yeah.
armadillo.
Yeah.
I like that, but I wouldn't mind if he has some form of like sort of like a porcupine, like he can kind of shoot some of the horns out of his back. Not
Yeah,
all of them,
that's
but
what I
some of
was
them.
thinking.
I was thinking that, yeah.
I think if you were to have a special ability, I would like it to have been where it's still like natural to him. It's not like something outrageous. Like the fact he has all those spikes, the fact he had the ability to maybe shed them or fire them from part of his body, and the fact that he can roll into the ball, and then the only other thing I can think of is if he rolled into the ball and he like started charging, but as he's charging, it creates some sort of energy within the as he rolls, and as he's rolling, it's like a force field or something, or just power because of the
Yeah, because
heat or something.
he's almost like a land turtle, sort of, just because of his armor.
Yeah.
So in a way, like if you've ever played games with creatures like that where they're more defensive, so it has like this shell, like an armor shell protection.
Mhm.
So it's almost like a force field, but it's not. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm. So
he has those he has oh sorry, no, I was just gonna say that he had and imagine he already has all of that, like even in Final Wars, that the fact that he turns into a ball, dude, he's like almost invulnerable. Just the fact that you
Yep.
know if it's momentum that he can shift and he can use. But imagine if they gave him a tail club that was bigger and it had spikes on it. Like imagine what kind of damage. You can do to a kaiju's head
yeah,
with
he
that
kind of has
with that club.
he kind of has a club there on the end of his tail.
Now, I wouldn't mind seeing
Yeah,
this.
like
Design. I know they've done the design, but I wouldn't mind seeing an upgrade design like that in a future movie, like in the Monsterverse, or even in Toho movies, and do something where it's like what Anubis was saying is like give him a little bit, but not a whole lot, because I feel that's the reason why he's such an underdog, because he doesn't have all these so-called abilities, but he's, like I say, he's tough as hell. You know, the outer shell is pretty much what keeps him, from getting really maimed or something like that.
So here's a question: out of all of the appearances of Anguirus, do you have a favorite scene or moment with Anguirus within the world of the Godzilla films? So I'll start off with Mr. Jedi Granville.
Well, you actually showed it earlier in the clip of showing his many, rousing moments, and that's the moment when he's biting the one of the when I say the heads, one of the necks of Ghidorah, and Ghidorah lifts him up. I mean, to me, that has got to be the most badass moment there, because he's hanging. I mean, he's like, I'm not giving up, and he's hanging. He just like. It's like in Ghidorah is just like, man, get the F off of me, man. What the hell? It's like, and then all of a sudden he bites him, and Anguirus just releases it, and he just falls down, but he's still able to get back up. It's like, just shake it off, like kind of like they said, dust them haters off. I'm just dusting it off. I'm here. What you want right now?
Yeah, that particular scene, I generally believe, inspired the scene when Ghidorah lifts Godzilla up into the atmosphere in Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. And then it's even the way you see Godzilla come backwards and like drop. He even looks in the same way that Anguirus did.
Yeah, Godzilla didn't quite recoup the way that Anguirus did. Anguirus had an easier time with it.
What about you, Sentry? Do you have a favorite moment in the film series?
He's got a whole bunch of them.
these are all that appearances that I know of that he made, and it would, I mean, shit, it's like a fuck. That's hard. It would have to be between Destroy All Monsters and Godzilla versus Gigan, when he uses his spike carapace to take out Ghidorah from behind, and then Godzilla turned, Godzilla turned Ghidorah facing forward with his body, and he told Anguirus, "Come on, man, keep going, let's, back that up." How do you say it? Back that ass up.
Exactly.
And freaking yeah. Then no, it's because it would have to be between Destroy All Monsters and Godzilla versus Gigan, but it's like he's a pit bull. When he bites you, he's like a pit bull, doesn't let go. Like he just like I mean, like you can even see the blood when Anguirus bit Ghidorah's head. Like he was bleeding. It's like imagine if Ghidorah didn't do anything and just kept trying to get out, and then I think freaking Anguirus would have chewed right through that. Chewed right through. Yeah, like that true like chewed that his head off. I mean, it's just he's that's probably what it is. It probably has to be that one between Godzilla versus Gigan and Destroy All Monsters.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Anubis?
Definitely the backwards attack on Ghidorah. Like that's one of the few times we actually get to see Anguirus like do a powerful move on Ghidorah, like with Godzilla hold him, of course, but most of the time that we see Anguirus, he's either just biting the tail or biting a neck, or falling from the sky, or getting his jaw ripped open by Mechagodzilla. So it's like that is like one of the few times that in Final Wars is where you can see him actually in an offensive type of attack on something. Which again just comes back to why I feel it's important. And as much as I like to give Rodan a bunch of shit, we have to kind of see some more of both these characters to kind of like, because through Anguirus' history, he's been mainly a bitch. Even though we know he's tenacious, he just doesn't like on film. It's always like he's getting his ass kicked, and it's like I'm tired of this shit. The boy needs some love, like big time. Same with Rodan. Rodan got his ass handed to him in King of the Monsters. He needs his own movie. We need to see these guys shine.
I'm hoping that they'll somehow make him appear in Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. It's already been revealed it's going to feature more monsters in the first season. So fingers crossed.
And that's another reason why I don't want too much more added to Anguirus, because the cool thing about Legacy of Monsters is that they're adding their own monsters. So like one of the cooler ones they had from season 1 is the Frostbark. That thing is pretty sweet looking. So I don't want Anguirus to really have too much more other than what we've kind of talked about.
Yeah, the thing with I've mentioned this more than once, and we've had these kind of conversations, is that when you look at all of the Titans in the Monsterverse, they're basically counterpart to the Toho classic monsters. So what we've mentioned, Manda is Tiamat. In many ways, Doug could be seen as Anguirus or Baragon. But I would like to believe that if they ever do bite the bullet and finally bring in more Toho classic monsters, they're finally going to give Anguirus the justice he deserves.
I would hope so. I mean, I would love to see that. Sorry.
No, did you say they're kind of toying the idea with Anguirus and Space Godzilla for the next -1?
So I think it's gonna be, well, they've hinted it's either Biollante, but then I do know the director is a fan of Anguirus, and I'm hoping he's gonna make it more like Godzilla Raids Again, because we've seen how powerful Godzilla is in Godzilla -1, and for them to bring in a kaiju that's just as powerful, I think it's the same things we've seen time and time again. It'd be nice if they brought in a creature, or maybe more than one creature, that can go toe to toe and has some sort, maybe no abilities, but has something there that Godzilla can't take on. That that he has no defense against. So imagine if Anguirus is in -1, but because of his bone structure in the casing on his shell, it's like, it would be like, say, adamantium of Wolverine. It's something so strong that Godzilla can't penetrate it. So it makes him like you say, a tenacious foe. But when it comes to the Monsterverse, one of the biggest things that pissed me right off is the fact that Anguirus is apparently in the Monsterverse. Because
Yes.
here he is.
Unfortunately, yes.
He's at the bottom of the ocean, right outside the door of the temple in King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, really?
So
That's how you're gonna honor him?
So that's another thing I wanted to bring up because I feel as if he's constantly disrespected.
You know, the sad thing is, he got more screen time than our Japanese legend did, who got edited out for 30 seconds. So,
Man,
technically,
I was gonna say, don't
Yeah.
start. I'll bitch and moan real quick with that.
yeah,
Like,
Mhm.
you know what? And another thing is, to what Kevin was saying, and Gillis, if they would have made him be able to stand upright on his hind legs and use his claws and everything from his, from his front legs, I mean, that would make him like a tank. Like he's literally a tank. If he's able to stand upright and be more offensive, and then what if they make his horn bigger and he can gore fucking other kaiju's, and then like
or his fangs.
He's so yeah, like he has he has fangs, he has teeth, so and they could just make his horns a little bit bigger, or they, like I said, they can make his carapace spikes bigger, like in Singular Point. And just imagine if he's able to settle on his hind legs and able to fight like both ways on the ground,
that's
and he
funny
can
about
stand up.
what Goji said, because I would think that because of the way that -1 is designed about Godzilla's creation, that like Anguirus is probably going to be affected by the same radiation. So technically, if Godzilla is shooting, a ray at him, it might affect Anguirus a little bit just because of the power wave, but technically it wouldn't kill him because he's also radiated. So it'd be pretty interesting to see how they approach that.
It might actually power him up, maybe a little
Yeah,
bit.
that would be
Who's to
pretty
say?
crazy.
See, they went down the route that they're all going to introduce maybe more than one monster in Godzilla -1. Who's to say there's the talk of Biollante? Who's to say Godzilla's trying to fight Biollante, but then Biollante grew on an island outside of Japan during this secret experimentation, and then grew to the point where it then left the island and made its way to Tokyo or Japan. So when they discover this fact that Biollante came from this secret island or experiment island, they go to investigate the origins of Biollante, and when they hit the island, they discover that there's something else on the island that lives there, which is Anguirus. That's kind of protecting the domain where the lab is. So that way you could bring in Biollante as the main threat, but then have a subplot where they're just visiting the island and they've got to get in and out and get out of the way of Anguirus. It will give Anguirus more screen time, and it will give them an opportunity to show a fresher version of Anguirus with a bigger, more threatening look, and still keep the origin and then that natural tone and ability of him.
And I just have a wild thought about that. Now that you bring that up, and you mentioned maybe bringing in these two individuals, it would be so like hard on if if the director was to do a Dark Knight kind of premise in terms of you bring in this threat or whatever threat that Godzilla's going to face up, and then bring in this other threat, and it just seems like, well, who's the real threat in that sense? Is it the Joker or Harvey Dent? We don't really know. And knowing that if he does go that route, it's in that kind of way, that to me is almost like I say, okay, he's really saying, I want to have these creatures in here, but I got to stick kind of to the mythos, or stick to the mythos and create a little bit of something extra to it, But as I say again, it's only if he goes that route. Because like I say, you can make whatever you want. I mean, we got to remember, Godzilla, like anything in Star Wars, like anything like Dracula, Frankenstein, you can make up your own mythos of what you want to do. But you got to stay true to what it is in order to make sure that not a lot of, because you got to remember, a lot of fans will say that's not what Anguirus looks like. That's not what Violence is. It's like, dude, A, it's a movie, and B, cool your tits, because it's not about what you like. It's about, are you invested in the story, to say the least, for you to actually like what you're watching, you know. But that's just my rant.
So, what's your opinion of this version of Anguirus?
Badass.
The Final Wars version. Right.
No, I like it. I mean, it's
I think I would have. I think Goji and I talked about this when we did our little kaiju spotlight. But I think if they gave him a bit of a more aggressive look, because he is more streamlined than his previous versions, but at the same time, he does kind of look dopey in some ways. So, like, if they still
just letting the cat out 1 second.
That's fine. Our host left, so but yeah, no. I think if they gave him a bit more aggressive look, I think it looked pretty sweet. Just some tweaks, really.
But you know, it's funny you say that, because to me, in Final Wars, pretty much all the kaijus in there were pretty much streamlined. It's like they got a workout, you know. It's like they went to the gym and say, "Oh man, we got to work ourselves up." But yeah, and Anguirus still seems a little bit, you know. It's like, yeah, you streamlined, but it's like you're not getting no kind of toughness about you. They just look kind of, as you say, silly a little bit, you know. But I guess maybe that's the whole point, to say that even though he's the underdog, he's still some kind of like pet chihuahua, or kind of sensitive in a way, you know.
Well, he was, but he stood up on his hind legs, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, why don't they make him do that more?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, because like I said, I mean, with all that momentum he can bring into it, with that carapace behind him and his powerful hind legs. I mean, who knows what kind of, you know, power he can generate, man. And then having a lot of durability, it's like, you know, I mean, I like the Final Wars. I did not know Final Wars existed. So when I saw pictures of that, when I played the video game, Godzilla Saved the Earth, I think, and I was like, what? I was like, what is this? I'm like, I never heard of this. And that's why I didn't find out Final Wars. You know, shout out to, you know, my boy Anubis, like right here at Final Wars. Like, I was like, there's a movie called that. And then I was like, what the hell is this? And
I'm really shocked you had never heard of Final Wars. I thought you would have known straight out the gate.
Well, this is
Go ahead, sorry.
This was back in like, I was like, this was back in 2007. And I was like, because I had just bought that game. I bought the game of, well, I was still a Godzilla fan, but I was still doing my, you know, I was doing my training, teaching, all that stuff. I was all into what I was doing, but I bought the game Save the Earth for PlayStation, and I saw, like, you know, I saw some of the, yeah, I think it was Save the Earth, or yeah. I bought, and I saw, like, there's special features on it, and then there was pictures of the Final Wars, Anguirus, Rodan, Godzilla, King Caesar. I was like, but not like very like detailed, but they're just like clips, and they're like special, you know, features. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I never heard of this. Like, what is this? And then, you know, right away, you know, the internet was still in its infancy, but I ended up going to Best Buy, and that's when I found it. And I found it with Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, there's another Godzilla movie? So I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that, you know, until like 2007.
It had both your boy Rodan and Anguirus in it, which they hadn't appeared in a movie since Destroy All Monsters, I think.
Yeah. And I knew about Godzilla. I knew about Godzilla 2000, and I knew about Mechagodzilla, but I didn't know about the other ones, because like I said, I wasn't too into it. And then once I saw features on those films, I'm like, okay, now they have Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and then Final Wars, and I was like, well, I already got them, but it's like, you know, but I got them till later. And sorry, Anubis, you were gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just saying. I kind of forgot what I was gonna say, actually. Oh, what it was like, because you said how you weren't really aware of Final Wars. Well, that's kind of how I was in the '90s with some of those other movies, like the Mecha Godzillas that they've done in those that year. Because like I had kind of lost track of Godzilla after Biollante. So when I went back, I was like, they put all this shit out. Because the last thing I remember, because before I discovered was G2000. I'm like, okay, so they made another Godzilla movie, and then like, but they had some throughout the '90s. I'm like, really? Same with Gamera. I missed that whole boat. That whole boat I missed.
Yeah. Right. Like, that's one thing I got frustrated about when I heard that they were doing new Godzilla movies in the 2000s, is that every time they announced a title, I got excited because I was waiting to see if they were going to bring back certain characters from the show era, but it was always the same four: Rodan, Mechagodzilla, King Ghidorah, and Mothra, outside of Godzilla. And then the rumour started circulating about JMK, which was going to be like a David versus Goliath type plot with these three much smaller kaiju versus this much bigger, menacing Godzilla. But once again, Toho were frightened to take the risk of putting him against these three lesser known kaiju. And because of that, we didn't get that dream film where I've always wanted to and imagined how different that film would have been with a Varan, a Baragon, and an Anguirus. And there's actually fans out there that have loved the idea of, that particular version of the film. That there's a fan out there who did an animated sequence using CGI and created just one particular fight sequence, which featured them three particular characters versus the JMK Godzilla, and it was phenomenal.
Yes. Well,
I still have because go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say. Well, I'll let you go first. You probably got more interesting what I was going to say.
No. I was just no, dude. I was just gonna say that I still have, God bless my brother Primo. I have the Godzilla game for PS4, and I still got to get to that gameplay. I still got to do some gameplay on that one. I still got to finish it up because Anubis was going nuts when he saw that, and then what do you call it? The video game. And I still forgot that I can play as Rodan and I can play as Anguirus. So I got to start getting more into the game so I can figure out how to unlock them. But it's true, like what Kevin was saying, like people call it Ghost Godzilla. Like on the internet, some people call GMK's Godzilla Ghost Godzilla because his eyes were white and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been interesting. I would have liked to see Anguirus, Baragon, and Varan, freaking gang up on Godzilla, and that would have been cool. I like that idea. It's just, Toho.
In a way, it would be like true Earth monsters or Earth defenders because they're all like grounded.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to read this little bit that I've read up. So, according to the English subtitle of Godzilla Raids Again, Anguirus, he was referred to in the film, was an Ankylosaurus, a fictional dinosaur that lived for 150 million to 70 million years ago and is described as one of the strongest dinosaurs that lived in the prehistoric era. Additionally, he is described in a textbook by Polish world animal specialist Platelli Hondon as one of the few creatures that had a thorough hatred for warlike predators. An individual Ankylosaurus was awakened by the same hydrogen bomb that awoke Godzilla and battles him until he is killed by the latter. In the English dub version of Godzilla Raids Again, Gigantus, the fire monster, the name of the dinosaur is pronounced Anguirus and given the sub-moniker Killer of the Living. According to this version of the film, they ruled the Earth at one time, then disappeared suddenly. From an unnamed textbook in the movie, a scientist reads that the Ankylosaurus may return from hibernation due to radioactive fallout. Anguirus is also said to have brains in several parts of his body, including the head, abdomen, and the chest. Throughout both versions of the film, Anguirus battles Godzilla on several occasions until the latter eventually kills him. So that's an interesting idea that he's got multiple brains throughout his body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they would say that Godzilla has more than one too, because Godzilla's bigger, and he would need one brain to probably move his hands, and then he would need another brain to move his feet, his legs, and his tail. So that it's just like Anguirus. Anguirus has a brain in his head, like you said, his chest and his abdomen. And
yeah,
he was quicker. He was faster than Godzilla, and he tripped it. He tripped it and took Godzilla down a few times. So, it's like yeah, but it's. I mean, it is a good reference and a good how can you say it? How they put it together. How Anguirus is. And they said, "Oh, a killer of the living." Like, was that's what they called it? Anguirus, a killer of the living.
Yeah, it's in the textbook in the movie, apparently. I like the idea that he goes after warlike creatures. So, obviously, Godzilla is basically a walking, living weapon.
Yeah.
So, obviously, Anguirus is clearly going to target him.
Yeah, he's going to follow him. I mean, and find out where he's at, and well, that's pretty much what he's going to do. I mean, even if it costs him his life, which it does, but that's how it is.
Yeah. It would be very interesting if they used the information that they had from that movie and they use some of the text or some of the storytelling into the Monsterverse, because I think it would work. You've already got one alpha, which is Godzilla, but imagine if you had a counterpart, which they kind of hinted with Ghidorah, but that's an extraterrestrial alpha. Obviously, he was the main alpha Godzilla. He scared away the Scar King and Shimo and all. But imagine if there was like another species that didn't actually fight against him, but worked alongside him. And that species has died out until one's finally rediscovered, which turns out to be Anguirus.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there was other things that I saw. I mean, I don't know if it was a what do you call it, a kaiju tuber, but it was kind of saying they were kind of referencing that maybe Anguirus, the one that was at the bottom of the ocean in Godzilla City, was either a potential opponent that Godzilla killed, or it was an ally that Godzilla had.
Mm-hmm.
And they just people giving, I guess people just giving their own thesis or their own little opinions on what Anguirus's skeleton was doing in that city. And I kind of thought to myself, well, I mean, everybody can have their own little idea or own little opinion or thoughts on why Anguirus was down there, but I mean, who knows? I mean,
well, it's a member of his species, so yes, it definitely looks like an Anguirus, but don't forget, there's a member of Godzilla's species that's discovered in the caves that the Mutos came out of in Godzilla 2014, but it's not actually Godzilla, it's a member. And in the fictional book, it was a character called Dagon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just
attack on. Yeah.
so just because another one of the species of skeletons was discovered doesn't mean that there isn't another one out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember the species that we see in Godzilla Raids Again, that Godzilla is a different one than the one we see previously. So, you know, the fact that it pops up, that shows you right there. There's another one existing. You know?
Mm-hmm. That is very true. And Jake actually has brought up a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If so, going back to JMK, if that film had been made with the three original idea Titans, Anguirus would have had an ice breath in the film.
Hmm.
And that actually makes sense because if you remember, Ghidorah is in ice when they find it, and you've got that old man protecting her.
Right.
The 1,000-year-old dragon or the 5,000-year-old dragon that's slumbering, and it's like in ice. So I get that, but it also that led to what we're seeing with King of the Monsters, because Ghidorah was also in ice there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that particular film inspired how King Ghidorah was awoken. But to think that an Anguirus in JMK would have been surrounded in ice.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, see, this is why I'm thinking that I would think the Japanese, would be more immune to saying, let's take risk in terms of, don't think like Westerners, like, because they're more afraid to say take a risk with something and say let's run with it. It seemed like they could have ran with this, they really could have ran with this, and whatever came out, it's like, hey, we're doing something different here, but they decide to just simp out and say, well, we'll stick with some of the ones that are more well known and go with Ghidorah and Mothra and play it off that. But it's kind of sad. Like I say, it's a sad opportunity, but who's to say that somewhere down the line it won't come up that they'll try that again? Because I wouldn't mind seeing Varan, Anguirus, and even Baragon, in a kind of situation where they're defending something, it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Pretty much.
Like, I think when it comes to Anguirus, I just think he's a character that needs more respect on his name. He's a character that needs more appearances. Like, everyone says the top 4, of course, is Godzilla, Rodan, or the top 5 is Godzilla, of course, Rodan, Mothra, King Ghidorah, and I think Mechagodzilla. They've never understood why, especially the fact he's made, for me, outside of them, he made probably the next of the most appearances, why he was never given the same kind of respect.
Maybe because he is that particular, underdog that it's like he's not getting the praise that he should. But in retrospect, he really is. He's getting the respect that's behind closed doors. And like I say, I know people who just love Anguirus, like from horn to tail. And I realized, like, you know what? That shows right there the potential of what he represents. Because he is somebody's like. You can, it's like that song said, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down, and that's what Anguirus is. He's gonna get back up. You can try to keep him down, but it's like that ain't gonna happen. So maybe that's the reason why he doesn't get the praise like he should,
But imagine imagine how he would look in a Monsterverse. I just imagine how fierce and how monstrous he would look.
I think they would make him look. I think they'd make him look something like this.
I would like that design. That'd be more.
But someone like this is different. But this is just someone put that just covered where he hit fell or the
Yeah.
version. But you see, I just don't think that's got enough spikes.
No, that's what I'm saying. They're not.
Yeah, he has no carapace. Yeah, he doesn't have his carapace. He doesn't have his shell.
Yeah. So I definitely would like to see more Anguirus. I want him to get more respect. I want him to be able to, put some more respect on his name. I've enjoyed Anguirus for a long time, and I've always wondered why he was never seen the way he is. But I do know there is a demand for him. There is love by fans. Like some of the artwork that the fans do for this character. So some of the artistry is just amazing.
Oh no, I think that's by Matt Frank, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
Those are from Matt Frank. Yeah, definitely. I love this one as well. Oh, put that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That one.
Oh,
That's
nice,
cool.
sir.
Like, imagine if he
It
was
looks
like
like
that.
it's limber
If he was able to fight. Yeah, if he can fight like that. Like, I mean, this is like a tank. I mean, look at his upper shoulders. I mean,
Yeah.
shit, dude. Like, he would be like I mean, and then, I mean, I think he does have already his, he does have his respect. But remember that even in this comic book called Godzilla Legends, he actually, just with a little bit of assistance from I think the special forces, like he beats Destroyer. Like he literally beats Destroyer, and he gets kind of revenge on Mechagodzilla. There you go, right there. That's from Godzilla Legends, and then I think in the, what do you call it, the Rulers of Earth, him and Godzilla like end up fighting, and Anguirus gets his fighting 3 Mechagodzillas, and Anguirus gets his revenge. He literally breaks one of Mechagodzilla's jaws, and then he actually rips off one of Mechagodzilla's arms with his teeth. So I'm like, I mean, that's the good stuff. Like you can tell that he's getting respect. Like he's getting notoriety. I mean, here he has notoriety in the Godzilla community and Kaiju community, or us.
I think the ultimate respect, though, is, every figure that's been released, everybody for years has always wanted an Anguirus figure, an SH monster art, an articulated figure, and we're finally gonna be getting one later this year. Every year they seem to celebrate, the different monsters throughout the course of when the film's released. So when it was Godzilla's 70th anniversary, they did the poster version of Godzilla 1954. They're re-releasing, different kaiju, different monster figures they've done in the past, but we're finally getting another original figure. I think we had the Jet Jaguar figure, which was to celebrate Godzilla versus Megalon. So it's about damn time we got ourselves an Anguirus figure, which I do have on pre-order, of course.
Me too. I got a pre-order.
Yes. Yes. So I'm just hoping the future is bright for Anguirus.
Well,
Jedi,
we keep it alive. Trust me, we make it happen.
What's your final thought on Anguirus as a character, and overall what you would like to see in the future if we get anything?
Well, simply put, I feel Anguirus, like so many other characters who doesn't have a lot, but he gives a lot. He is always gonna like I say, he's gonna get pushed down, he's gonna get roughed around, but when you get back up, that shows real character, and he's a real one. He's a real one in the kaiju community, and he's not somebody to take lightly. I mean, he might be one of those, that saying, is always the quiet ones. Yeah, he might be quiet, but he's gonna carry a big fucking stick, and he's gonna hit you with it. So I feel that his dominance is always going to continue on, because look how far he's come this far. He's still here 70 years later.
Mm-hmm.
As future iterations with him. I really would like to see him make a cameo in the future, Monsterverse film. Maybe even in the Monarch series. I mean, it's possible if they go the route where the director. I've heard rumors that he might have Anguirus in this coming film or something next. If he does one, I'd like to see that. But all you say, we can just hope. We'll see. We'll see what goes.
Sci-fi.
He's an inspiration, man. He never gives up. He's the guy. He's the one that people try to knock down. He keeps getting back up, like Rocky and Godzilla was always my first inspiration. But when I saw Anguirus, like he's also that type of character that not only did he assist Godzilla and was a sidekick. People say sidekick. I think it's kind of like sidekick. Maybe is it's okay, but I think to Godzilla he's an equal, and you're always gonna love that type of character that gets knocked down, but then he gets back up. He overcomes overcomes whatever he goes through. He overcomes Ghidorah, Gigan, all the ones he's fought. And yeah, he
always overcomes the one that's twice his size as well.
Exactly, and that's why I see him. And I would love, like I said, I love Anguirus, man. They're like, Rodan and Anguirus, they're both tied as my number 3, and I just think that if they do decide to bring him into a modern Godzilla film or the sequel to -1, or I'd just be happy if they. I mean, the cameo in King of the Monsters was a little, but I would actually like to see a cameo of Anguirus if they don't actually do anything with him. I would like to see something at least that's based on him in the next film or anything. But I love Anguirus, man. I love him to death. Great character, man. Great character, overall character. Never say die. True underdog, but still overcomes whatever he goes through.
DJ Anubis.
Yeah, I mean those guys pretty much covered. I mean, always liked him. Like I said, he's oftentimes taking the beatings, but he keeps coming back. But I think it's way overdue, and I really hope that the director of -1 does put him in there, because it's kind of like I said before. No matter what he does for the second film, if they played it smart, in my opinion, and they can approach it story-wise any which way they want, but if for whatever reason they say, yeah, we're going to bring in Anguirus and we're going to do like a Godzilla Raids Again type of movie, but then maybe towards the end, because of Noriko, we might throw in Biollante in the mix somewhere in there as well. And then if they got really smart, and I know it's wishful thinking, but if they did a third film, it'd be like the most epic event to have Godzilla go against Gamera. That would be like the matchup of the century if they did that. And so that's sort of my hopeful and dream. But overall, even if it never gets to Gamera, like Anguirus is like long overdue for another appearance. He just is.
Yeah. I would like to think if they decided to do a -1 trilogy, if they want to go down the route of making the second movie as grounded as the first one, Anguirus would be the perfect choice as his adversary. And then right at the end of that particular movie, that then could go balls to the wall in the second one by having, a much bigger and more dangerous threat by basically adding Biollante at the end of the movie, or little seeds that she's there or about to hatch, and she then becomes the dominant threat in the third and final chapter of the -1 trilogy. I think that would be a great way to go. And of course, like Walter said, I definitely would like to see Anguirus make his appearance in the Monsterverse. They allowed Rodan to have his day. Mothra's had her day twice. They even get Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla an opportunity. So why not Anguirus? He's long overdue an opportunity to be showcased on the biggest screen in the best light possible, and just like they did with Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, they can make him look and feel like a real animal, which was the beauty of them three in King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course we're always going to have him in comic book form. We've got him on with DVDs or Blu-rays. He's forever going to be there with me. And like you see, he's lasted 70 years, and he's probably going to last another 70 years. But there's nothing much more we can see or talk about when it comes to Anguirus. But I just wanted to do a small stream dedicated to the ultimate underdog, who never gives up, never surrenders. Even when he got his ass kicked by Mechagodzilla, he burrowed himself back underground to heal to fight another day.
Yep.
So what more could you want, and who else would you want by your side than Anguirus?
Exactly.
Yep.
So with that said, all I can say is thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. It's been a blast. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Is there anything coming up on the Metal Tavern Radio, Anubis?
Actually, I have to run. I have an appointment with Mr. Rick Myers and Fat Samurai guy, so I've got a jet. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I will talk to you later.
Catch you later.
Peace out, brother.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yeah, Mr. Jedi Granville, what's coming up on your channel?
Oh yes, I do have something coming up in just a few weeks' time, where I'm going to do a live unboxing, and that would be on a Saturday. But after the next Saturday, after that, I will have my top 10 favorite kaiju podcast, which I hope that you two or even more people will come on and express, because even sci-fi has mentioned, he's got Anguirus and Rodan on his top 3. I say, well, let's kind of express that and say what other ones are on that list in a sense of top 10, because I want y'all to express how y'all feel about these kaijus in that top 10, and know that, okay, what's the reason behind the top 10, and what's the feel, and I can say, how does it feel for you to have that top 10 in that particular category? Because like I say, that's really, if you think about it, you two are the ones who actually inspired me to make this list, this podcast. So
I think it's going to be a fun one, and hopefully I'll make it. Hopefully I can make it.
But that's what I have coming up.
Sci-fi, anything on your channel coming up?
So far, as myself on the Sci-Fi Society, my channel, no, because I'm still thinking of what to. Still thinking the bear still might be. It's up there. It's in there. I just got to find out when, and then or depending how I'm feeling, and then with therapy and stuff. But I will be on Jedi's, but I think that's going to be a little further down the line.
Yeah, that's down.
But me and Anubis are going to be co-hosting Event Horizon on the 11th of May, and that's the one so far that's the one that's so far that's going to be in the books. But I got to see when I can add on my channel, when I can add the bear, and then probably something else. Maybe I was thinking either Sinbad, the Eye of the Tiger, or something, maybe another Godzilla movie. But the Beastmaster, it might be one of those two. So I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll let people know, but those are still on the back burner. But so far, it's just Event Horizon on May 11th.
As for me in the entertainment headquarters, we do have coming up another classic kaiju movie review, which is going to be the X from Outer Space.
Yes.
We also have retro classic movie show Reign of Fire coming in the next few weeks.
Yes, I forgot about that one.
We have that, and I believe coming next week we have the birthday special for Mr. Anthony Jordan, which is going to be the Tremors franchise, film 1 to 4. So that's what's coming up on the entertainment headquarters. We hope you've liked this small little stream. It was just my little tribute and, putting the name of Anguirus out there, the ultimate underdog, because he deserves it.
Right.
Happy 70th anniversary to him. And for you two guys, thank you so much for joining me. And as my good friend Walter Ross always says, you better keep the kaiju love alive.